materials that Ange had sent. So we're not planning on redoing any of the orientation at this meeting today. We're going to jump right into the business. But I'll just make a note at the outset of the process here that, you know, as a governing body, the RDCK does have some formality involved in all of our in all of our official meetings, and the same rules of procedure that govern the RDCK's board meetings are in place for this committee as well. But also recognizing that many people, especially the public members of this committee, may not be very familiar with some of the rules of procedure here. I just encourage anyone as we go through the agenda today at this meeting or any future meetings, that if you have any questions around process or how you know the rules of the meeting are used, to please ask questions. We want to support you to the greatest extent possible in your learning the rules of procedure and the formalities around some of the stuff. Now, that being said, we're hopeful too that in many respects as an advisory committee, this can be quite conversational in nature as well. But why don't we jump into the formal agenda? So as the corporate officer for the regional district, I'll formally call the meeting to order. And the first order of business is the election of the chair. So at this point, sorry, Angie's going to jump in with something here.
Yeah, just the individual whose name is Observer online. Can you identify yourself?
Angela,
Yeah.
my experience with Observer is that they're recording the meeting and the person has never identified themselves.
Oh, okay. And I was just making sure because we do have new committee members, and so some of the members may show up as unidentified. So I just want to make sure. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to do a quick roll call of who I have attending this meeting as committee members. So I have Director Andy Davidoff. Right here.
Present, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Denise Dumas.
Yeah. You here for the advisory committee? Yeah.
Yes, good afternoon.
Thank you. I have
Hi, Dorothy.
Dorothy?
Yeah.
Excellent. So Dorothy has just joined us here in the meeting room as well. I have Alexis Folk.
Yes. Hello.
Hi,
there
thank
you go.
you. Alicia Stubbs.
Hi, it's Alicia. Yes, I'm here.
Oh, thank you, Alicia. Thank you. I have Sam.
Yep, present.
Sorry. Excellent. And as staff, I have Mike Morrison, myself, Angela Lund, Joe Kiriko, and Trisha Davison. Did I name everyone that's in attendance as committee members and staff? Excellent. That looks like I have. Okay. Sorry, Mike, I'll let you proceed.
Okay, thank you. And welcome, Dorothy.
Thank you.
So election of chair. So as corporate officer, I'm calling the meeting together, but I'll entertain nominations for the position of chair of this committee. Would anyone like to nominate another member of the committee for chair?
So Chair, can I speak on privilege just for a minute before we do that?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this quite a bit, and basically we do have two regional district directors who are on this committee, but I think it'd be really important if we selected a chair who wasn't a director, and I'm speaking on privilege intentionally before we nominate, because it would be, I think it would be more respectful if we had a chair from someone who was more aware of of uh, of the lived experience and working with the community of individual of people that we are actually trying to work towards a bunch of goals for more inclusion and accessibility. And I'm just wondering, I know this is really formal, but I guess I just would ask, and I know this is not the way we normally do things, but if there was somebody who was interested in volunteering for that position, and I would nominate that person.
Would anyone like to propose that they would be nominated?
We may have to go with it.
Yeah, now, if no one wishes to be the chair, the committee should choose a chair for this meeting. And given the adherence to the procedure, it would make sense perhaps that be one of the RDCK directors that would take that role just for this meeting. But, well, I'll call a second time, in accordance with the rules of procedure for nomination for the position of chair of this committee.
Dorothy, are you interested in being chair? I will nominate you since you're in the room.
First of all, I don't know what it entails to be chair. If that can be clarified, that would be appreciated.
The chair is responsible for running the meeting and maintaining order in the meeting and running through the items on the agenda.
Straight for that.
Yeah.
I would be good. I would be good. I would be good at that. Plus I'm trying to find a job.
Okay.
Okay, so my time is limited.
Right.
So
Okay.
I'll have to back off.
Politely decline. Okay. So required to call a third time for nominations for position of chair. Any interest? Nominate a fellow member, perhaps?
How about the little lady that nominated me there? She's got a great big smile on her
Okay.
face.
Would you like to nominate
What's her
Director
name?
Dumas?
She's alternate.
Alternate Director Denise Dumas from the town of Creston? Are you making that nomination?
Yeah.
Yes. Denise, do you approve of the nomination? Do you accept it?
I can accept it as long as I'm accepting it on the behalf of Mayor DeBoon.
Yeah. So he can't accept it, vicariously through you. He has to be present to accept that. So would you accept being chair for this meeting?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and that way we can just proceed with the meeting. So that was our third call for nominations. Hearing no other nominations, Denise Dumas is acclaimed as chair for this meeting, and then we will repeat the process, and perhaps everyone can think prior to next meeting
Thank you.
if they would be interested in being the chair here. And certainly, if anyone on the committee would like to know more about what's involved in the responsibilities and how this would move forward, staff is available to assist you with that. So with that, Denise, if you'd like to take over the reins of the meeting and move through the agenda, please do so.
Yes, for sure. Let me find my agenda. I first would like to acknowledge and respect the Indigenous people within those traditional lands we are meeting today. And I call this meeting to order at 3:11 p.m. my time. And I would like a recommendation for the agenda, March 7th, 2024, Regional Accessibility Advisory Committee. Is there anything to add to the agenda?
It's a change in the order.
Oh, if I can, I'd like to propose that we change the order, moving item 9.2 to before 9.1.
Okay, so 9.2 before. All right, you may have to remind me about that again.
Okay.
Okay, so motion to accept the agenda.
I can make a motion to accept the agenda.
Thank you, Alicia. And seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you, Dorothy. And all in favor? Opposed? All right, so then the next is the motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting.
No meeting so far. There was no meeting.
No minute meeting, okay. And so next is staff reports, and who's taking that?
Through the chair, that would be me. So I'll maybe take a moment to introduce myself. So my name is Trisha Davison. I'm the Regional Manager of Recreation and Client Services, for Community Services, of course. And I am coming to you from Castlegar. So what I have in front of you is a report that aims to highlight some work that Community Services has been doing for many years. We just were able to reinitiate that work back in the fall, related to something we call our Leisure Access Program. So this program has always aimed to provide some form of further subsidy for services within community services to people who may have financial barriers to participation in our recreation offerings. So this program has been in place for well over a decade. Joe could probably pinpoint the date for you if you were curious. But back in 2019, there was a report that went to the board that was approved to do some work to look at that program and revise it to try to better serve people that may find themselves eligible for this program. And of course, if anybody remembers what shortly happened after 2019, the pandemic hit and all things kind of fell by the wayside. And it was back in the fall of 2023 that this program, an idea, was brought back to the board and supported by putting together what they called a Recreation, Inclusion and Access Select Committee to do some work specific to the Leisure Access Program. It was something felt to be long overdue and something that many board members around the table had identified and requested that work commence on. So Director Davidoff and Director Vandenberg, myself and Joe Chirko were tasked with the responsibilities of bringing that work back to what's called the All Rec Committee in March of this year. So that meeting occurs with that group, which is a group of board members, and it's a large percentage of the board, not quite all of the board, but a large percentage of the board, and they meet 3 times a year. So usually March, June, and I believe it's September. And so we wanted to make sure that this initiative was kept on target. And so the work of that little small group of people continued on, and we are on target to present what we have drafted as a revision to the Leisure Access Program, but also something that we've classified ourselves as a policy framework for recreation services to actually provide some level of access to people on a spectrum of financial need. So I'm sure this goes without saying, but the spectrum of financial need that we looked at was certainly the Leisure Access Program, which still requires people to have some form of financial ability to participate in recreation services, because it simply reduces an already subsidized cost for services. To the other end of the spectrum, where there's people that have no disposable income, and the thought of having them pay for service to any level was not a reasonable ask. And then we tried to hit different targets within that spectrum within this policy. So on March 27th, the actual policy framework itself, along with revisions to the leisure access program, will be presented to the All-Rec Committee. And ultimately, if endorsed, will go forward to the following board meeting, which I believe would be in April, for approval. So I thought I'd maybe highlight some of the work that went into what guided our discussions. And so if you're following along in my document, my apologies, I'm probably jumping all over the place. But in the bullets on the front page under section 2, I tried to highlight some of the guiding principles that we use to frame our discussion around the development of this framework. So one was to continue to ensure the integrity of people accessing the program offerings is protected, creating opportunities to access the benefits of participating in recreation services to people facing financial barriers across the spectrum of need, providing fairness and equity to accessing recreational services, aligning the new policy framework with other governing documents already agreed to for community services, building on the existing leisure access program framework and other guiding practices that are already in place, and building effective partnerships with organizations that specialize in supporting people in need and vulnerable populations. So the actual draft framework contains 4 components at this point. So one is the revised leisure access program. Another one is support for vulnerable populations in emergent situations. No or low cost programming opportunities. And then a section related to caregivers and support workers. And we certainly understand that this project, we ultimately, as this project was coming to fruition, we knew that this committee was also being struck. And we wanted to make sure that it was referenced within this document and all of our reports going forward, that certainly we have thoughts on how we would like to engage this committee over time in both evaluation, providing some guidance, maybe bouncing some ideas off of people, a whole host of different things. We're not really sure exactly what that could look like, but we were hoping that now that this committee that has a broader spectrum of people that can offer some guidance to us will be able to be utilized in some effective way going forward. So I thought it might also be of interest to you to know a few statistics that we've been gathering over time related to our current leisure access program. So right now we have 716 active leisure access members. So those would be people that would have applied and would have been deemed eligible to receive further subsidy on recreation services. And it's a year-long window of eligibility. So if you apply, you're deemed eligible for a full year, and our full year goes from June 1st till May 31st each year. So the most current information I could gather was from June 1st of 2023 to the end, basically the end of February. In the last full year of the Leisure Access Program, we had 616 Leisure Access Program members. And of course, we were coming out of COVID, so we fully expect that that number is probably not totally reflective of what the numbers would more normally be, just knowing that there were still people still concerned about things related to COVID and coming back to recreation services. Thought it also might be of interest to realize that 81% in that last full year, was 81% were adults and 19% were children or youth. And in our case, youth are between roughly the ages of 5 and 19. An eligible applicant receives currently 50% subsidy on our regular admission rates for general admission to things like the pool, public skating, or our membership services. When the work of the committee commenced, it was also felt to be important, even though it's not directly part of the Leisure Access Program, they did find it of interest to know the number of people that are also accessing our services where our fees and charges policy allows them to access services for free. And so in our policy, if you're a child between 0 years of age and under the age of 5, you can participate in general admission services for free. And in the last full year, and I just used the same Leisure Access Program year, just for continuity, we had 7,011 visits for children and golden guests. So if you're 75 years and older, you also can access general admission services for free. And we had 18,471 recorded visits in that last full calendar year of the Leisure Access Program. So maybe my last point, then I'll open it up for questions, is the select committee and certainly our community services staff team fully recognize that there are other areas of focus related to access and inclusion well outside of financial barriers to participation. We know this is only one. And we really look forward to seeing how this committee will help ensure that our initiatives and attendant objectives of this program and others are able to be met. So maybe I'll throw it open for questions through the chair.
Any questions?
No.
Okay, hearing none. Thank you so much, Tricia. And we will move on to new business. Mike Morrison, you want us to go to 1.12, is that correct?
Sorry, 9.2 first, please, Chair.
So 9.2 is going to be 9.1. Okay, so
Okay.
consult with CK accessibility plan.
Okay.
None. Yes?
So the reason for moving this to before the discussion of the grants is really to just provide a little bit more context to what we'd be hoping to do with the grants there, and a little bit of context to the overall project that we're undertaking together through this committee and the work of the committee, and also the intent of the provincial legislation that's providing the framework here. So the creation of this committee flows from the provincial requirement coming out of the Accessible British Columbia Act that went through in 2021. So historically at the RDCK, accessibility has been front and center in a lot of our services. As you can see from Tricia's presentation, a lot of work has been done in our recreation group around accessibility. And the intent with the legislation was that public sector organizations, of which the RDCK is one, really think about accessibility in the broader context and look at not just the services that we offer, but how people access information, accessibility financially, as well as other more traditional forms of understanding accessibility. So it's really what we're undertaking is a project to evaluate and remove barriers to accessibility throughout the organization in any ways that the public would be interacting with us. So historically, all of those pieces, thinking about accessibility in relation to our services, have been done within those groups. And where we're taking this is, bringing it to the organizational scale in terms of how we approach accessibility. So, we don't have anywhere specifically where the accessibility file lands currently within our organization, because this is a new project for us. So for the time being, to this point, to establish the committee and to start work on the plan, it's essentially been Angela that's been leading that on behalf of our organization. And both Angela and myself are in the corporate administration group. But as we get into developing the plan, we'll be drawing in experts from all parts of our organization. There will be a component that relates to our human resources, some to our communications functions. We have operational groups that will be involved in this as well, and we expect Tricia to be involved because a lot of work has already been done in the recreation world, and there's a lot of work that will be done through the plan as well. So Angela will be providing a coordinating function. We'll be bringing in different parts of the organization, but we don't have an accessibility expert on staff that's going to bring this all together. So we will be relying on outside consulting assistance to help us coordinate and to bring in some specific expertise around different things. So the province, when they passed this legislation and made these requirements to think of accessibility in the broadest sense, recognize that a lot of organizations aren't structured in a way to deliver this easily within their traditional arrangement of services. So they made funding available to local governments to bring in experts to help us put our plan together. And we see that sort of taking two forms, and I'll speak to those in 9.1.1 and 9.1.2. But essentially, one of the things that we need from this meeting today is direction from this committee, a recommendation to the board to obtain that consulting assistance and also the funding to pay for that consulting assistance. So the first resolution has been changed, and the recommendation that we're hoping this committee will make to the board. And will you read that out? And we would need someone to move that recommendation.
So the recommendation through the chair is that the board directs staff to research options for hiring a consultant to assist with the RDCK accessibility plan, subject to receiving grant funding from the local community grant program and Disability Alliance BC.
I believe there was alternate wording that I sent you.
Oh.
Did you we were hoping to maybe move a step forward. Did you get that? I sent it.
No, I did not.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Perhaps it didn't come through. But just there was a wording change there related to procuring consulting assistance rather than looking at options. That would give us the ability to move forward if the funding is received. Could we make that change?
So subject to, sorry?
The staff be directed to procure consulting assistance to assist with the development of the plan, subject to the funding being received.
Consulting assistant.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Could you read that again for the group, please?
So that the board directs staff to procure consultant assistance with the RDCK accessibility plan, subject to receiving grant funding from the local community grant program and Disability Alliance BC.
Good.
So Chair, maybe if I could speak.
Yeah, go ahead, Director
Yeah.
Davidoff.
I think, Angela, you're saying a consultant to assist with it. Oh, I see, to assist, hiring consultant assist with, okay, I get it. It's clear in my head now. Thank you. Yeah, I'm good with the wording. Sorry, Mike.
Would you like to move that motion, Director Davidoff?
I sure would.
Okay, and do I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay, Dorothy. And any more discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you so much, Mike. So moving on to 9.1, accessibility grant funding opportunities. Mike Morrison.
Okay, so there's two pots of funds that the provincial government has made available to assist local governments. The Local Community Accessibility Grant Program, this is a pot of funding made available through Spark BC, which is the Social Planning and Action Research Council of BC. They're basically administering the funding on behalf of the provincial government. It's specific to local governments. There's a Local Community Accessibility Grant Program. The intake for that program is ongoing and funding is awarded up to $25,000. So we feel like the development of the plan would be developing elements of the plan would be eligible under their policy and program stream. That would be the best fit for the RDCK. But it's probably the way that the program appears to be structured is that there's probably specific pieces of the plan where we require very specific kinds of expertise or advice that we would be using this program for, rather than the development of the overall plan itself. This would be probably things that are rising out of our plan development where we realize actually, you know, for this matter, we should, you know, bring in someone from the outside who can help us, you know, take the best approach or recommend the best approach. So we don't know exactly what we would be using that $25,000 for just yet. But if I can just jump over to 9.2 here, which is the other program, that program, through the BC Accessibility Hub, or the Disability Alliance of BC, the funding for $4,000 that is also coming through that organization from the province. That pot of $4,000 pot of funding is really targeted at helping organizations get the ball rolling. So that's bringing in a consultant to help map out the strategy, look at the different pieces of the plan that would be developed. And our intention for using that $4,000 would really be to have the consultant map out our strategy and identify the pieces that we would then be applying for the $25,000 pot for. So there's a couple different things, and we have a resolution to apply to both of those, or a recommendation, or a proposed resolution to recommend to the board that we apply for those funding streams. So we're on 9.1.1. There's a recommendation for if anyone on the committee has questions about those programs or strategy for accessing those programs, this would be a good time to entertain those questions.
I'm just wondering, when will this happen?
If we provide if board direction is provided, we would be submitting the first application right away, or as soon as we could. I believe it's a fairly simple process. Again, this is meant to be accessible to a lot of different local government organizations. So, and it's a relatively small amount, so we would anticipate the application process is fairly simple, and then we would be, lining up a consultant to assist us with that work, and then we would anticipate that, subject to the receipt of that funding, that this would be something we'd be doing through the summer and probably early fall, mapping out the strategy, and then obviously meeting with the committee and bringing those pieces forward so that we can plan it out.
I'm just wondering about all these pieces. What are the pieces?
Of the plan?
Yeah.
We don't have those all mapped out yet. This is what the first pot of funding is to do, is to, presumably there's a stage where the consultant is assessing our organization, seeing what we have in place already, seeing where there may be gaps, identifying some of the best practices from other jurisdictions that have already done their plans and things that they've looked at, and making some recommendations to us on how we might best use that $24,000 in funding from Spark to come up with the best plan. So expertise wise, we're hoping to rely on external consultants for this, using the provincial funding, and we will also be providing our own internal subject matter experts for the different areas of the plan, and continuing to provide a coordinating function through Ange and our corporate admin department.
Director David.
Chair. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I found it really helpful. I read through the attachment that you sent out, which was very good, on the local community accessibility grant program. And then on page 15, there was, I know we're referencing Stream 2, but it was really helpful, and it might maybe help all the members of the committee. Stream 1 is, the stream is designed for local governments that already have a project in mind, and Stream 2 is designed for local governments that may be unsure of where to start. And then local governments in this stream will work with Spark BC to define their needs and select a specific area of focus. The funding will then be used to implement the specific projects or initiatives identified. So Dorothy, to your question, I also was thinking about the same thing about what are we applying for, but obviously we don't have a project in mind, so that's why the Stream 2. So through the chair to Mike, is that correct? Why we're doing stream 2?
Correct, yeah, that's my understanding as well.
Okay, that hopefully that it helped me understand why, because I was looking stream 1, stream 2, and we're in stream 2. We're not quite sure of where to start yet, so we need a little bit of guidance on helping us start our work, our collective work.
Thank you. Do I have anybody that would like to move the first recommendation? That the board direct staff to apply to the local community accessibility grant program, stream 2, policies and programs, funding for legal and consulting advice for the one-time funding of up to $25,000.
I will.
Okay, Dorothy, and do I have a seconder?
I second. Oh,
Was that Sam?
believe it was me, but I believe Alexis also said so.
Okay, well, I thank you both. And any more discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? And anyone opposed? That is carried. The 9.1.2 BC Accessibility Hub. Would anybody like to move the recommendation that the board direct staff to apply for Disability Alliance BC for the Accessibility Organization project funding to assist with resource and service development of up to $4,000?
I forward.
Sam, you want to move that?
Yep.
Thank you. And a seconder?
I'll move that.
Dorothy, thank you so much. Any more discussion or questions?
Chair, that was Alexis that spoke, I think.
Okay.
Oh, or you,
Thank you.
yeah.
Okay, all in favor? And anyone opposed? Okay, carried.
So Chair, I just have some questions to staff about funding and how that all works, like for this initiative. So is it okay if I ask that now?
Yeah, go ahead, Director David.
Okay. So it's pretty clear we're going to be applying for some grant funds to help guide us and determine the direction we want to move in. Is there any other funding that is being directed to this initiative in our current budget, or is it the staff time that is being allocated to this through other services? So just wondering how that works through the chair to staff.
At this point, there's no other funding in the 2024 financial plan in general administration for this work. We were working from the starting place that the provincial funding would be sufficient for the work that we'd be doing this year, and that there may be budget requests, things coming out of the development of the plan that we'd want to put in the 2025 budget.
Okay, thank you very much.
Moving on to the next item on the agenda, it is public time. Anybody in the gallery in your room?
No, through the chair, we have no public here in attendance,
Okay,
but there looks like there may be someone online.
okay. Observer, do you have a question? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is next meeting. The proposed meeting schedule. Angela, did you want to take this?
Yes, thank you, through the chair. So right now, we've outlined the 4 meetings that the RDCK is looking to schedule for the year. And then we have reached out to the municipalities so that we could kind of give committee members a bit of an idea of how many meetings per month. So attached, there's a little bit of a meeting outline Some of those municipalities have not, provided us direction right now on if they'll be holding meetings. It's really, I think, dependent on the staff that they have available to, work with the, Regional Accessibility Advisory Committee right now. So those meetings haven't been determined, but ourselves, Creston and the Cusp have identified meeting dates for 2024. If this schedule works for everybody, then we will put out meeting invites for the RDCK meetings. But as you can see on the attachment there, it says facilitator in a column. And for Creston and the Cusp, the committee will be working with their staff directly, which would be for Creston, Natasha, and for Cusp, it would be Cody. So with the regional district, Mike and myself will be coordinating those meetings. For the municipalities, it will be other staff that will be sending out meeting invites for the dates that are identified there as of now.
Did
Any
you send that
questions?
out in an email, Angela?
Absolutely, Alexis, I can send that out as its own document on its own.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Do you have any meetings for Salmo?
So through the chair, at this time, I have not heard any direction from Selmo. That doesn't mean that they're not going to be holding meetings.
Okay.
It's just at this time, they haven't determined their meeting dates. And so, we will see what comes back in the next little bit, and I'll keep updating this, this spreadsheet for everyone so that everything is combined and you can see it as a whole. But for the municipalities, you will be working directly with their staff. And so right now, the request to the municipalities is to coordinate 2 meetings per year. So, and it looked, like as we've tried really hard to make sure that the schedule is not overloaded in 1 month. We've tried to spread it out so that there's maybe a meeting a month or 2 meetings a month. So we're really trying to make sure that we're not putting everything all in 1 month and then a whole bunch of months go by where there's nothing. So we're really trying to spread out the amount of meetings throughout the year instead of having it as one lump sum. Does anyone have any questions in regards to that?
Yeah, Chair, I do have a question, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Director Davidoff.
Yeah, so thank you for sending out this schedule. When I first looked at it, I says, oh my goodness, we have a lot of meetings. And then I just circled the RDCK one and said, no, this committee doesn't. But the question I have is that, is it anticipated that at some point, once everybody gets rolling, that we may have like a joint meeting of all of these committees to discuss, like we do, like with all recreation and other things, to discuss like common issues, how we address them? Like, is that kind of in the hopper? And it may happen a year from now, or may never happen. But is that something that's been contemplated at all?
So through the chair, Director Davidoff, the Regional Accessibility Advisory Committee is the committee for those municipalities as well as the RDCK. So right now, the meetings that are listed and on every month, each individual month is for this committee.
Oh,
and
it's for this committee.
Yeah, because according to our bylaw, I want to call it RAC, just to keep it simple. RAC will be the advisory committee for those municipalities as well. So there will be that consistency throughout, because the RAC is the consistent, I guess, the consistent point here throughout this whole entire process is that these municipalities may have different items that they want to address with their accessibility plan. But because the RAC is involved in that process, we can create some consistencies if needed, you know, and share resources if possible. But it's really dependent on what those municipalities are going to outline in their accessibility plans and what their communities may need.
Okay, supplemental, Chair, if I may.
Yep.
Okay, so then the expectation is that this committee is going to meet on all of those dates?
Those dates have been outlined, yes. Those are the dates right now that are proposed to the committee.
Okay, then that's where I have I have a problem on a couple of dates because I only the 4 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 RDCK dates work for me, but I didn't look at my schedule for the other dates. But I already have a conflict on April 3rd.
So sorry, Andy, through the chair. Sorry. So when Natasha or Cody reaches out to the committee, that will be the point where the committee members can say if they're available or not. These are only proposed times at this time. And if majority of the committee members can meet during that time, then they probably will go forward with that date. But when Natasha and Cody reach out to the committee in regards to those dates for the municipalities, that will be the opportunity for you to let them know if you can make it or not. We're not scheduling for those municipalities. We are purely scheduling for the regional district. And and they will have everyone's contact information and be able to communicate with you directly as a committee. So you'll be able to provide them that feedback.
Okay, and one more question, just if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
And Angela, would you and Mike be coordinating all these meetings, or on those meetings where it's Creston, then the Creston people would be coordinating, or how is that work?
That is correct. Yeah.
May I just add something on this? I think it's important to just maybe review the overall relationship of this committee to each of the different jurisdictions. I believe it was covered in the orientation, but it is a little complicated and a little different than other committees that we have. So when the legislation requiring development of a plan and establishing of a committee was passed by the provincial government, basically that legislation put the responsibility on each local government individually to establish a committee and develop a plan. Now, recognizing that many of the smaller municipalities in the RDCK have limited capacity and limited populations from which to draw volunteer members of committees, the RDCK board has, directed staff in accordance with their interest that perhaps the RDCK committee could also serve the different municipalities. But the development of the plans and the coordination of the meetings to develop those plans is still a responsibility of all those individual municipalities. So this committee was established, and the bylaw that established this committee defined that this would also serve as the committee for a number of municipalities, but recognizing too, each of those municipalities has different timelines for development of their plan and other priority work that's competing for staff time and things like that. So we're leaving it up to those municipalities to establish their own timelines that are entirely separate from the development of the RDCK plan. So the meetings that are convened by Angela And where we're discussing the development of the RDCK plan is strictly for the RDCK plan. It won't involve the work that's being done in the municipalities.
Okay, and then who will chair those meetings that are not RDCK plan meetings?
So through the chair, it will be determined at that meeting, if following their procedure bylaw, an election of a chair, I'm assuming. I have received an email, in regards to some interest, to be the chair. And so, at our next RDCK meeting, we will, go forward with the election of the chair again. And then at the municipal level, it will be dependent on that election and what they put forward with their procedure bylaw. So it might be very similar to what we just did today with the election of the chair, but it may look a little bit different. It's really up to the committee if they want to continue to have the same chair throughout. That will be a decision at the municipal level. But here we will be looking at electing a chair next meeting, and whoever is the chair will be the chair for only the RDCK. The municipalities may have that same process. So it could differ. So it could be spread out through committee members if wanted, or it could be the same chair throughout. It's really up to the committee at that point.
And I'm sorry, Chair, I have one more question, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and that is, I looked at the enabling bylaws, but I just want to make it really simple. So this committee is kind of the overarching committee for the whole RDCK. Are the municipal committees and chairs subcommittees of this committee, or are they their own completely own entities and we are just then guests at their meetings?
Yeah, I can take that. No, they're entirely separate. So the way that this bylaw was structured is that this committee also will serve as the committee for those municipalities, but the rules of procedure that those municipalities have will apply to the committee. So there's no hierarchical structure of committees here. There's no subcommittees. They're distinct insofar as the RDCK is a distinct legal entity from the Village of Salmo or the Town of Creston. Those committees, this committee that's convened here, when it's serving for one of those municipalities, will be under the governance structure of those municipalities. So they're not subservient in any way to a larger RDCK organization, if that makes it clear.
Okay. So when we're expected to attend those meetings, are we there as observers?
No, through the chair, you are the advisory committee for that municipality.
Okay.
Okay. Any
All right.
other?
I'll take it offline because I still have a few questions. That's okay, Chair. Yeah, I just want to understand the process because I don't know if anyone else is confused, and I'm very clear to say when I'm confused. So I'm confused right now. So yeah, maybe staff can work on something to kind of delineate what the expectation is of the members of this committee when we are interfacing and attending the municipal meetings, and because right now I'm a little confused. Maybe it's just me. I don't know.
No, you're not alone.
Okay.
The staff can work on clarifying that for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be awesome. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for all you've done. This is we're going to have some growing growing and transition issues here, and this is something brand new. So thank you, staff, for your patience and taking all the questions. And I think the committee members are realizing that I ask a lot of questions at many meetings. So sorry about that.
Okay,
They're good questions.
any more questions?
Just a comment through the chair.
Yeah.
Andy, absolutely. This is definitely a new structure to the regional district as well. So yeah, I agree there will be some growing pains, but we're here to help guide you and support you, the committee members through this, and to try to, help you understand this role as much as possible. And that, like, this is something that we will be evaluating as we go through it as well, to see if this regional model works well with ourselves as well as the municipalities. So, everything is still kind of under review as we go forward. It's new, it's a little bit confusing, but we're here to help, guide through that process and try to make it as clear as possible.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did we vote on the meeting schedule?
So, to have this correct, the next potential meeting will be in Creston, April 3rd, and Natasha Awashin will be contacting the committee members for the time. We in Creston will be on Pacific time at that time. Could I get a recommendation that the meetings?
Do you have to be in Preston at the office, or can you do it virtually?
I believe there will be a virtual link. There should be a WebEx virtual link available.
All right.
So could I get a recommendation?
Either way, it doesn't matter. I just kind of want a heads up.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Angela. I mean, who's speaking? Dorothy?
No,
Alexis.
Oh, Alexis. Oh, thank you, Alexis.
Pretend it wasn't me.
Okay, so a recommendation that the meeting scheduled for the Regional Accessibility Advisory Committee with the RDCK be followed. I'm about to have dogs bark. May 2nd, 2024 at 2 p.m. August 1st, 2024, 2 p.m. November 7th, 2024, 2 p.m. Could I have someone to move that recommendation?
I have a question though.
Yes, go right ahead.
What was April 3rd?
April 3rd will be the next meeting, and it will be in Creston. And Natasha Awashin will contact the committee members to let you know when that meeting is and give you the details.
Is that with the RDCK or?
It will be with the town of Creston, but it is.
The town of Creston, I'm sorry, okay.
Yeah, it'll be with the town of Creston, but it will be the Regional Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting.
Okay.
And will include all of us as well as the Creston folks, right?
Yes, Arnold DeBoon is normally your director.
Yep. And so the 1 o'clock time on the April 3rd, it's at MST. So then will it be 1 o'clock PST or?
It will be Pacific time, because we will be on Pacific time, and
Okay.
Natasha will contact you and give you the details.
Okay. Thank you.
So may I have a mover, please?
I'll move.
And a seconder. Alicia, thank you. And all in favor?
In favor.
Anyone opposed? Carried. And the next item on our agenda is to adjourn. Could I have a motion to adjourn? Dorothy, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So through the chair.
Yes, go right ahead.
Just through the chair, so this time around, the RDCK followed our normal process for distributing the agenda and reaching out to the committee members by email. If, you know, there is suggestions on if that works for everybody, please let us know. But if there's, you know, other things that you would like us to include, that would be appreciated. And if you could provide us with some feedback there. So we followed our normal process for meetings this time around, but if we have to make any small adjustments to make sure that we can accommodate everybody, please let us know.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you, everyone.